Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about Red-White Initiative in Legacy. This is one of the decks that has risen back to Tier 2, with more commander cards being printed on Magic Online. This time it's the card Forth Eorlingas, which is the Lord of the Rings commander card. And it is so good. It has made this deck, Red-White Initiative shows up probably once a week or so in top 8s of challenges. And so we're going to jump into this deck tech. I'm going to talk about the overall strategy of the deck, the card choices, and how to play the deck. Let's do it. This is my Red-White Initiative deck. Let's start with the lands, and then we'll kind of talk about the strategy. We're playing Fast lands. We're playing City of Traders and Ancient Tomb, because the point of this deck is to play a threat or a lockout piece as early as possible. So what do I mean by threats or lockout pieces? Let me sort out the deck, and I can kind of explain that a little bit better. So I've divided up the deck into a couple different sections. First off is fast mana, the second are threats, third off are our lockout pieces, and then we have interaction with solitude. So let's go through each piece. The point of the deck is to use these fast lands and this fast mana to cast anything in this category as early as turn 1 preferably. Now, what is in this category? The best things you can cast are Caves of the Chaos Adventurer, Seasons Dungeoneer, and Forth Eorlingas. Caves of the Chaos Adventurer is a 4-mana trampler, 5/3. When it enters the battlefield, take the initiative. That is the point of this deck. Take the initiative, keep the initiative, and capitalize on the initiative. The initiative allows you to enter the dungeon. And then when you enter the dungeon, and you venture through the dungeon, a lot of really good things happen, which happens every time you take the initiative and every upkeep if you have the initiative. The dungeon looks like this. So the first layer of it, you grab a basic land. And so I'm going to go back to the lands just for a second. We're running 3 basic lands, 2 plains, 1 mountain. And with those basic lands, we get the colors to cast anything in our deck, so we can grab anything we need off of that first layer of the dungeon. The second layer is counters on something or scry to. If you really need to draw into more stuff, you scry to. If you feel like your opponent doesn't have any answers and you want to kill as fast as possible, put the counters, because the counter side is also lose 5 life. And really the rest of the enter the dungeon is gravy. If you get all the way to the end, I don't see how you can lose. But the other part of Caves of the Chaos Adventurer says, whenever Caves of the Chaos Adventurer attacks, exile the top card of your library. If you've completed a dungeon, you may play that card this turn without paying its mana cost. Otherwise, you may play the card this turn. So it allows you to continue to get through your deck as fast as possible and cast more and more of these back-breaking threats. The reason we have all this fast mana and we're devoting so many slots into having mana to cast these guys is that we should be able to win the game on the back of just 1 or 2 of these. Seasoned Dungeoneer is probably better than Caves of the Chaos Adventurer. Is a 4-mana 3/4. When it enters the battlefield, take the initiative. So we've already talked about taking the initiative with Caves. It says whenever you attack, target Cleric, Rogue, Warrior, or Wizard. Gains protection from creatures until end of turn, and it explores. Exploring is revealing the top card of your library. If it's a land, you put it into your hand. Otherwise, you get a +1/+1 counter on the creature, and you can decide to put it in the graveyard or back on top. Which essentially means you just get to attack forever, keep the initiative because you get to keep jamming for free with Seasoned Dungeoneer unless they have an instant or sorcery removal spell. And you go through the dungeon and attempt to win the game and kill as fast as possible. This effectively is a stompy deck with more steps. And you really try to keep hands where you can cast, again, one of these things in these 2 categories on turn 1. Our other threats include Forth Eorlingas, like I talked about in the intro, is a red and a white, and X is create X 2/2 red human knight creature tokens with trample and haste, and is whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to 1 or more players this turn, you become the monarch. Becoming the monarch means you get this emblem, essentially, that says at your end step you draw a card, and if somebody deals combat damage to you, they become the monarch. Nobody should be dealing combat damage to you, they should be defending against you dealing combat damage. So really, especially if you're on the play, just having 3 mana on turn 1, cast Forth Eorlingas, X is 1, get a 2/2, jam, become the monarch, draw a card on my end step, go, is just as an amazing start as taking the initiative on turn 1. Fable of Mirrorbreaker is also a really reasonable threat. I'm not going to go through all the modes of Fable of Mirrorbreaker. If you play Magic, you know what Fable does. But a creature that ramps mana is obviously great in this deck. Card selection is obviously great because we have a lot of dead cards once we have the mana we need. And then flipping into Reflection of Kiki-Jiki that can copy a non-legendary creature, copying Caves, copying Seasoned Dungeoneer, and copying Solitude, all absolutely broken. So again, casting any of these homies on turn 1 is how we win the game. The mana, which I just realized we haven't gone over yet in City of Traders and Ancient Tomb, we've already talked about. But Chrome Mox is 0 mana artifact that has imprint. When it enters the battlefield, exile a non-artifact non-land card from your hand, and it taps for 1 mana of any color of the exiled cards. So while we're down cards, it allows us to ramp mana for 0 mana. Lotus Petal is essentially a treasure. You play it, and then you can sacrifice it to add 1 mana of any color. And then Simian Spirit Guide, we exile it from our hand to add red. Oops, top 8 challenge. That's what that's from. We exile anything from our hand to add red. I did not mean to have that humble break. That's actually really funny. Plateau is obvious. We've already talked about basic lands. Caracas is just kind of free to play and is often a just win button against certain strategies, especially for attacking. We're also playing 4 Cavern of Souls. If you've noticed that our payoffs, our creatures, are both humans. So being able to say human means Force of Will is really bad against us. Once in a great while, we'll say Elemental or Archon as well. But there it is. That is the primary strategy. We get mana way faster than we should, cast one of these cards on turn 1 or 2 if we're really sad. It allows us to find more craziness. We kill as fast as possible, and then we win. But the deck has a little bit more to it than that. It also has some lockout pieces that we're interested in playing on turn 1. One of them is Chalice of the Void. Against a lot of decks in Legacy, like the Tempo decks specifically, if you cast a Chalice of the Void for 1 on turn 1, they lose, especially if you follow it up with any one of these threats. You can do that so easy by having a normal land and any one of these, or by having City of Traders or Ancient Tomb. Also, Blood Moon on turn 1 is obviously very good against decks that are primarily fetch lands and dual lands. Casting that on turn 1 is just as easy as casting Fable or Forth Eorlingas or whatever. And then same thing with Archon of Emeria is a 3-mana 2/3. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn, and non-basic lands your opponent control enter the battlefield tapped. This is really good against a lot of different decks. One is like the Mirror Match. It's obviously great against because they want to cast Lotus Petals and Chrome Moxes and crazy stuff like that on turn 1 as well. But also stopping people from casting multiple spells a turn, having non-basic lands enter the battlefield tapped are all really devastating for a lot of decks, especially the 3-color decks that are floating around. Having a fetch land enter tapped, having to untap it, and then either having to grab a basic or a dual that enters tapped feels really bad. And Archon is definitely like a piece of a lockout. And then as interaction, we are playing for Solitude. It is a 3/2 for 5 with Flash Lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, we exile a creature. They gain life equal to its power. It's a Swords of Plowshares. And we can evoke it where when it enters the battlefield, we sacrifice it if we exile a white card from our hand. We have plenty of white cards, especially since very often we use a lot of these cards, don't have the mana to cast more stuff from our hand, but we resolved like a Forth Eorlingas or something like that, and then we need to get rid of a Seasoned Dungeoneer we can't cast out of our hand or whatever is all very, very good. There's not a lot more pieces to the main deck of this. We're just trying to cast one of these on turn 1. If we cast one of these, we want to make sure we have a follow-up of one of these. I guess the only other weird thing is, remember, you can tap City of Traders for mana before you play the second land, because if it plays another land, you sacrifice City of Traders. And against 99% of decks, play Ancient Tomb before City of Traders. It doesn't matter. That deals damage to you, dude. Or if you plan on casting something on turn 2 and you're forced to keep a hand where you can't cast one of these things on turn 1, playing a basic land first is good because it can't be wastelanded, and then playing your fast land, all very good. That being said, our sideboard is pretty straightforward. Swords of Plowshares for creatures, Containment Priest for Reanimator and Sneak and Show, Fairy Macabre mostly for Reanimator, Power Blast for the blue decks, and Magus the Moon for decks that Blood Moon is good against. We just bring more Blood Moon effects in to try to win the game really, really cheaply. It's kind of a scam deck now that I think about it. But Red-White Stompy, Red-White Initiative, whatever you want to call it. I hope you liked this video and an examination of Red-White Initiative. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.